Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast, the podcast and talk show where we have digital discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, TV, film, news, lifestyle, everything really depending on the guest we talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. On social media, you know me as PD Beats. My guest is an actor. You will recognize her from Code 404, which is available on Peacock. We are with Amanda Payton. Amanda, welcome to Popternative.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you for doing this. We'll get into, the show and specifics, but for you specifically, as an actor and a storyteller, because I like to call actors storytellers, because that's basically what you do. You guys are professional storytellers. When did you decide that that was something that you wanted to do growing up, Amanda?
I don't remember a time that I didn't want to do this. I do remember wanting to be a pediatrician, which I called a baby doctor for a little while. But
That's what my dad does. My dad's a pediatrician.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I wanted to do that because, I was a kid and like the main person I saw, I guess, besides my parents was my pediatrician. I don't know where that came from. But as the story goes, which I don't fully remember, I think I was about 3 years old. My dad was doing some like regional production of a Chekhov play. I think it was The Cherry Orchard. And my mom brought me to the just like a dress rehearsal. And I was on her lap and she was like, she'll fall asleep. And apparently the whole time I was just like riveted and like watching obsessively. And after the show was over, I got up on stage and like crawled around the entire stage and explored. And my dad looked different. He had like gray in his hair, which he didn't have in real life. He had spectacles on. And I guess like after that, that's all I wanted to do. So that's the story that I don't remember, but I don't remember a time that I didn't want to be an actress, to be honest.
Oh, for sure. You worked on a lot of really cool shows, specifically Code 404, which we're talking about right now. I mean, it's on Peacock. I mean, it's crazy how many streaming services there are.
Yeah. It's an NBC affiliate, though, so like that helps me.
The name is awesome, though, too. For people that kind of have know about NBC and everything, it's the Peacock. It's the
Peacock. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that landscape, in your opinion, as kind of an actress working on shows like this. I mean, it becomes an there's more opportunities for people like yourselves because of these streaming services.
Absolutely. And this one's really cool because it originally was just going to be for Sky TV in England. It's a British show. Yep. They needed an American, so they like sent out a call to the US, and I got the job and went out to London, and it aired in the UK earlier in the year, and now and then it got picked up by Peacock. So yeah,
I find it interesting as well now, because I know like Netflix is doing a really good job too in regards to this, like a lot of international content, and like to the point where a lot of people don't realize that your favorite shows right now are from all over the world. And I think
it's so cool. I love, as a consumer of television, I am loving it. I mean, right now I'm watching Money Heist. That's not that Normal People. That's not a US show. Well, I've always loved British comedy is so funny to me.
Oh, absolutely. There's so many cool genres. And you might not like the genre, or maybe you like working in it, but rather you don't like watching it because you get scared. But like the horror genre, have you noticed? Have you noticed that genre is like blowing up as well?
Yes, and I do I get scared, and I also have not really worked on any horror movie. I've worked on like some psychological thrillers, but not like the pop out scares. Which I feel like if I would work on one of those, then maybe I'd be less scared in life. But the horror genre, it's coming strong. It's coming back strong.
It is. And I feel like it's because, you don't need like the jump scares and the gore to scare people these days. Like people and society and the world is scary.
It is scary. And all you have to do is tell the truth. And it's more terrifying than like a pop out witch coming out and scaring you.
We talked about it off the like in the preamble before we like officially recorded. We talked about, like the goal, especially for, storytellers when they want to do TV shows. I mean, they want to do the TV show and get it renewed, and that's the dream. When you get that call, like, boom, we're going back to work. We're doing season 2.
Yes.
Besides that, for Amanda Payton, what are goals that you kind of put aside for yourself as kind of a storyteller in terms of like your craft and everything? Because obviously the goal is to work
as much as possible. Well, my main goal, so I became an actor because I want to do and experience everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I like probably couldn't land on one career path. So I was like, I'll do all of them. I can be a doctor, I can be a scientist, I can be, therapist. And so I just like, as long as I'm exploring truth, I'm happy in like any genre. I've done a bunch of comedies recently. I'd love to do more dramas. I've been doing TV, which is fantastic. Would also love to do more movies. So just to keep growing as an artist and to keep exploring human behavior.
Absolutely. And, can you talk a little bit about Code 404 and talk a little bit about your character as well? So like my viewers can kind of get a feeling for it. Like what's that all about?
Code 404 is a British drama. It's kind of like a RoboCop type spinoff. It's about these 2 police officers. One is killed immediately in the line of duty. I play a scientist / doctor / Silicon Valley genius who comes in and brings him back to life as like an AI / human hybrid. And so it's all about the misadventures there, but it's a comedy. So it's like pretty standard British comedy with like the witticism and like the wordplay, some of which I didn't get immediately because I'm American and it's British. But that's the storyline. And then it's just, other than that, like we do go a little bit into like stories of the whodunit type. Mm-hmm.
No, absolutely. I feel like sometimes it's just like hard to keep track of like how much like content is being kind of created on a daily basis, though.
So much.
It's crazy. And then it becomes do you kind of see it also, though? I mentioned like, there's opportunities and you want to do movies and shows and different genres. Do you ever kind of, as also a consumer, like watch something that you might have not been able to watch like 5 years ago and be like, oh, like I want to work in this genre. I want to work with those people.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I have a list in my phone of all of the things that I want to watch that I haven't been able to watch yet, from documentaries and even listen to like podcasts and those types of things, documentaries, interviews, movies, all of that. We're exposed to so much, which is awesome. And there's more and more opportunities for women and women who are not white, which is fantastic as well. So happy for that.
No, that is amazing as well. Have you like so to kind of add to what you just said, what are other kind of trends or things you've kind of noticed in the entertainment industry? I am noticing, there's a lot, like I was just talking to someone about, a movie, like I've seen a lot more like female driven ensemble casts, which is awesome. You know what I mean? What are some other things you've kind of noticed in the industry?
So what I'm noticing now more and more, and we still have a long way to go, is more and more women and people of color behind the scenes, which I think is super important. Having, I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I've ever worked on a show with, I worked on one show of all the shows that I've ever worked on. No, I'm sorry, 2 shows with a Black director. They were both male. Mm-hmm. But more and more just like as far as like DPs, the sound people, DPs, director of photography, writers in the writer's room, all of that, having Black people and people of color back there and women, and even like hair and makeup. I walked on recently onto a set and my hair and makeup person was Black. whoa, for the first time, you know, I don't have to bring my own hair products. She knew what to do.
Man, that's that's great, but at the same time, that's unfortunate that you're saying that's like the first time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, growing up, I watched all my favorite shows, you know, it was mostly white people portraying a life that I saw, like, and I could see myself in them, you know, like I could relate to the women on Sex and the City or the people on Friends, but knowing that I wanted to be an actor and knowing that I look like I do, I kind of was like, I'll get what I can
Yeah.
out of the industry. Like I will play the friends, the you know, not the friends in Friends, but like the friend of the friend, or like the person that someone goes on one date with,
Yeah.
or you know, the sidekick. And I kind of had to be okay with that to come into the industry. And now I'm getting an opportunity to do a little bit more, which is great.
No, for sure.
See a little bit more diversity.
Do you
Yeah.
think also people, to add to that, do you think people don't realize like how much auditioning happens like in the life of an actor? Like I feel like people don't.
Sorry, I did. It cut out for a second.
Oh,
What was that? Can you
sorry.
repeat
Can you
that?
hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Do you? Another thing too, adding to that, do you also realize that people don't maybe realize how much auditioning you
Oh,
guys actually do? Like that's and essentially, like I've talked to a lot of actors before, like that's your job.
that's
Like
the job.
that's the job.
When I get
right?
paid, I'm like, this is for all of the auditions, hundreds of auditions that I've had to go on before getting this job. Yeah, absolutely.
It's just crazy because it has to like you could be working, and it's kind of unfortunate too because you could be working for 4 months, but then you literally were like auditioning for like 3 years straight. Like I hear stories like people would
Yes, and
would believe.
while I was in London shooting episode of season 2, I was auditioning for other stuff for when I come back.
Yeah.
So it's that's our job.
It was
We're
pretty crazy
professional.
because I interviewed, Amy Hargraves, who was in 13 Reasons Why and Homeland, and she was saying, both the shows that and like this really puts it in perspective, Amanda, about like the struggle and everything. And so she's like, both those shows like wrapped, right? Like they both ended, and she's like, and now I don't have a job, and I was just like, damn, like that's
And you
the
always think
reality
that, like,
of it.
once you get to a specific place, aka when you're like in a show, then you don't really have to think about it anymore. Yeah, it's our job, so finding some kind of peace with that and even some kind of fun is essential.
And I think that's what happens when a show gets canceled, especially when it's like a hot show. But unfortunately, like I've seen a lot of shows that have been axed and not been given a second season recently that I think did pretty well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And,
That happens a lot.
and
Yeah.
I think there's just kind of the industry thing that just like alerts in your head, like these people will not. Like they thought they might have had more work for another year, but they don't. Like it is scary a little bit as well.
Yeah. I think even this year, I've kind of started to realize that like nothing's ever a given, especially like 2020 will teach us that, that nothing's ever a given, and that we just have only control over the things that we do have control over.
Mm-hmm.
So just to focus on those things.
No,
Otherwise,
absolutely.
I mean, you'll go crazy.
You will. And
Yeah.
it's just crazy. I think it's just like I obviously want to have conversations with people like yourself about, what you're working on and everything, but it's also really refreshing to get kind of your perspective on a lot of things happening kind of behind the scenes that people don't really know about. So this is what the show is kind of all about a little bit. I want to have those conversations. And I just find it very interesting as well.
Yeah.
So
I think it's important to know that I think that a lot of times talking to actors and doing publicity, you kind of like gloss over that and talk about whatever show is coming out, which is exciting. But there's also the very human side, which is the like uncertainty of life.
Well, I'm liking the fact too, like, because, I do press junkets, right? And, you have 12 minutes to talk about this movie, right? And I feel like press junkets have kind of naturally adapted to the idea that there's other stuff to also talk about. So obviously you're going to focus on that movie you're there to talk about, but it's like it's okay now to bring up something else, you know, in that 12 minutes, even though you're talking about that movie. And I feel like, because someone asked me that, you know, what's it like interviewing? What has changed as it for an interviewer? And I said, like, press junkets have changed a little bit. Like, they have, like, definitely.
How so? I'm curious.
Just in that regard, like, because you go and you're like, okay, you're talking for 13 minutes about this movie, and then there's this assumption that you can only talk about that movie.
Right.
But there's other
podcasts have changed that for people.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we're interested in hearing people's vulnerability, and I think we're more open to hearing people's vulnerability without writing them off. Absolutely. I think we've gotten used to it because of long form podcasts.
But think about it, right? Like, you might be doing press specifically for Code 404, right? Like, set up by Peacock or set up by Sky, right? And you're doing like a 15 minutes, and you only have 15 minutes, and you have a bunch you're doing. They're gonna ask you about the show, right? Because that's what you're there for. But you know, you worked on other things, you have opinions on other things. You might have an opportunity to kind of throw them in there. Whereas I see a lot of my friends that do press junkets in the past that have a podcast now, and it seems a lot different. It seems like all the questions were just about that movie, whereas I think people are getting more like intrigued about other things and want to talk about other things and see how it can get looped in. So if that makes sense.
That's cool. That's interesting. I hadn't really thought about that. But yes, I'm a big podcast junkie, and I know that, like, if I'm interested in an interview with someone, and they mention their movie at the end, I'm interested in watching it because I'm interested in them.
It's pretty funny to me too that, like, you know, like they say, like, about press, right? Like, because there's big podcasts and there's small podcasts. There's big publication, there's small publications. What I've noticed too is the small publications that might not have as many eyes on the prize than other publications, they work so hard. They grind. They're like blogging, and they're writing, and they're interviewing, and they're putting their heart and soul in it. And I think that alone is enough for someone to do it, because it won't be hard to clue in, like, this person works hard. Even though
I think the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. Yeah. So I think that if you're being lazy when it's small, it'll be lazy when it's big. If you put whatever amount of work, the work that I put into my auditions now and my work now, it's the same as the work that I put in, 10 years ago when I was getting like one line as like young party person, you know? And so I think that it's just you receive what you're ready for.
Yeah, no, I agree with you as well.
Yeah.
It's just, it's so fascinating. And there's a lot more opportunities for actors like yourselves to get the word out about things. There's podcasts, it's just crazy. But
then on the other hand, the market is saturated, right? So like, I am interested in watching a lot of these, shows that a lot of people have watched, and I have a long list that I'm working through, and I have a lot of time to watch TV during these Corona times. Yep. So, and I'm still slowly making my way through,
No, absolutely. It's a crazy landscape. Amanda, thank you so much for coming on Popternative. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Yeah, this has been great. Thank you.
No problem. So, Code 404 is available now. People can watch it on Peacock and then Sky in the UK.
Season 1, Season 2 coming probably next year.
That's awesome. And where can people follow you on social media to keep update with everything?
I am on Instagram and Twitter as Amanda__Payton.
Amazing. Well, seriously, thank you so much for doing this, and congratulations on the success with wrapping season 2 of Code 404. That's amazing.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Until next time, this is Amanda Payton and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.